Welcome everyone. In today's project, I'll be showing you how to create an infinite loop background in Procreate Dreams 2. We'll be going through the steps to make sure that this background has no glitches in it. This requires precision and attention to detail. Once you master this technique, this is a great asset for your animations and really speeds things up. I'm using the background I created for my previous tutorial. You can check that out using the link below. But if you'd like to just jump in, you can use my file. I've linked it below, but you can also download it using this QR code. So here we are in the original Procreate, and I have all these layers. I don't want to lose them. So before I get started, I'm going to swipe left and duplicate this and just keep the spare copy, just in case I want to reuse this for another project. I have it there. Because we do want to make sure that everything is squished down on one layer before we get started. So it helps if you're zoomed out on your project so you have lots of space around it. Okay, so we're going to go to the selection tool right here and set it to rectangle and just make sure color fill is not turned on. And I'm going to be selecting the left side of my page like this. And I want to kind of stop halfway. This part actually does not need to be precise, so you're just kind of estimating the halfway point. So it's going to look like this. And then we're going to just choose the copy and paste option here at the bottom. Okay, great. So if we look at our layers, we're going to see this left side. It's going to be called From Selection. And then we're going to go to our arrow. Now this is where the precision really matters. So we're going to go to snapping right here, and we're going to make sure that this button is turned on. You can also make sure that distance is at 14 and velocity is at 0.5. And we're going to take this left side and we're going to slide it over to the right. And what we're looking for are these orange lines. So the orange lines are really important, and we're trying to get it to magnetize with this side right here. So you should almost feel it kind of like snap into place. Please take your time with this because the whole project kind of hinges on this. Okay, great. So now I'm going to turn off my arrow tool, and then we're going to go to the bottom layer. And I'm going to turn on my arrow, and this time I'm going to go the opposite way. So this one slides over to the left. And I'm going to get it to magnetize with the middle. See how those two pieces snap together? So that's what we're looking for. And then I'm going to turn this off to make sure nothing shifts. So let's talk about what we just did, because this is the key to these looping backgrounds. So we cut it in half and we shifted it over. And now we know 100% sure that this part of our project matches perfectly with this side. This little bush here is a continuation of this one. So that's the basic principle. There are a bunch of other steps we have to do to actually make this work as part of the animation. So from here, we're going to squish our layers down, and now we have the opportunity to fix up the middle and get it all sorted. So for the most part, I'm going to be using the monoline. So I'm going to go to my classic library and find calligraphy and monoline, and then you're just going to have to do whatever is required to kind of fix up this middle part. So I'm going to kind of continue these hills here. Mine's actually quite easy, just taking a look at it. It will vary depending on how things get cut up. And you can kind of control where you cut that middle. So sometimes as you get better with these, you can create less or fewer problems for yourself at this stage. For the clouds, I was using the brush pen, so I'm going to go back to that brush and kind of extend my cloud here. Okay, so one other tool that's really helpful for this process is for textured parts like this. So this is where I would bring in the clone tool. So if I go to my magic wand and choose clone, you get this little circle. A lot of people don't know about this tool. And anything in this little circle, if I use my pen and draw, it's going to copy that. So see how it's over this pattern, and I can actually draw that pattern of the grass over here. So it helps if you have a good brush picked out. So I'm going to go to airbrushing, and I'm going to grab my hard airbrush and then just adjust my size and maybe lower my opacity. So lowering the opacity can kind of almost blend this texture out, and I can use this to kind of get rid of stuff. I can also, with 100% opacity, use that to replicate the grasses here. Okay, great. So pause the video here if you need a little bit more time to repair the middle. Okay, wonderful. So now our background is flawless. We know that the sides connect properly and we've repaired the middle. So now we're ready to move on to the next step. So you would think this is all you need to do to get this background to work, but there are a few key steps that we need to follow to prevent glitching. And this might not make complete intuitive sense, so kind of just go with it. So for this part, we're going to go to the wrench and go to Canvas, and we're going to choose Crop and Resize, and we're going to jump into the settings. So essentially, what we have to do is add the height to our width. So right now, I have really simple numbers for this reason, and I'm going to change the 3,000 to 3,600. And then you're going to hit OK. And you should end up with a square on your right side. If your square isn't in the right spot, you can kind of shift your tile over and get it to be there. I think it would be better for consistency if we all had our tile on the right side. So from here, we're going to go to our layers and duplicate our background, and then go to the arrow, and you're going to shift this one over to the right, and you're going to get it to magnetize right there. And now let's take a look and see if this all worked out. So if the puzzle piece is working, you shouldn't see any sign that there's a cut there. If you do, you might want to go back and just make sure your snapping is working and that every step you've been precise with how you match things up. Okay, so we're going to squish these two layers back together. So before we can put this into Procreate Dreams, we're going to go back to Crop and Resize. And on the right side here, we're going to just shave off a single frame. So this is what it looks like. If you don't do this, at the very end of your background, it will kind of slow down for a frame. It'll double that frame. So we're going to do that and then hit OK. Okay, great. So now we're ready to jump into Procreate Dreams. So make sure you have the updated Procreate Dreams 2 so you can follow along properly. And I'm going to go to the plus sign and I'm going to use the square option. You can use other sizes later once you really master the concept, but for now, I think it's better to kind of standardize everything. So we're going to go to our settings and go to Project. And we're going to leave the frames per second to 24. If you're working on a specific project and it has a frame rate, you can use that one. The more important one is the duration. This particular aspect ratio works best with 10 seconds. And then we can go to timeline and set this one to loop. Okay, great. So now we're ready to bring in our background. And I want to go to Gallery. So I'm going to grab my artwork and then go into Procreate Dreams and drop it in. So now we're going to make the background larger and fit it to our screen. So I like to go a little bit larger so I don't have like a white gap at the bottom or top. And I wish there was snapping in Procreate Dreams too. It would come in really handy with something like this. The other thing we want to look for is that all the extra is on the right side. Sometimes you'll want to reverse the direction, but I think in most cases this is the version that will be helpful to you. Okay, wonderful. So on our timeline, we're going to jump into keyframes right here. And I just want to remind you about the 3-finger gesture. So if I take 3 fingers and slide them up, it's going to make my track a little bit thicker and easier to deal with. And then I'm going to move my action button here to the end. And I'm going to tap on it, and I'm going to go move and scale, and that's going to set my keyframe. Not only does it set a keyframe here, it also sets one at the start. But we're mostly interested with the end here. And this is where we're going to go in and flip the background. So we're going to put all the extra on the left side. Now, this is where the precision comes in. So I can't guarantee that I haven't shifted my frame up and down like this. So we're actually going to do this on the timeline, and we're going to make sure it's absolutely perfect. So the way you want to do this is you're going to hold down here on the keyframe track. So it looks like this. I'm going to do it right in the middle. And then we're going to go to expand, move, and scale. And this gives us more control. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down on the y-axis here at the start, and I'm going to copy the information from it. This will control the up and down, and I'm going to go to the end and hold down and paste it. This is really important. You won't get this little like jar at the end of your animation. So if you were to play it right now, it's going to do the easing thing where it slows down and speeds up. So let's fix that before we move on and test it. So again, I'm going to hold down in the middle, and I'm going to find Set All Easing. And I'm going to choose linear. This is going to make sure that the background moves at a consistent speed. I think this is what you're going to want for 99% of your animations. Okay, so now's the moment of truth, so we can test it out. And you're going to want to test it in full screen mode because we don't want to see all that additional stuff. So that's a 4-finger tap onto the screen here. And then you can play it. And what we're waiting for is when the red bar comes to the end here, see if you can see any sort of inconsistency. But if you followed all the steps correctly, it should look perfect like this. And this is just such a wonderful tool to have for your characters. This would be also great to put into a window of a train to make it look like it's moving. Let me know if you'd be interested in learning how to do this fox or a train moving, and we can incorporate this background into a larger project. So that's infinite loop backgrounds in a nutshell. I hope you picked up a few new Procreate Dreams tricks along the way. And I'll see you for the next great tutorial I've got cooking. Adios!